Paula, what can Minnesotans do to help make sure that we keep our lakes clean for generations to come?
Well, Kim, there's three ways we can protect lakes at different geographic scales. First, at the watershed level, local governments, whether that's the county or the city or the township, must proactively plan for shoreland development. And they need to pass good local land use and shoreland ordinances, and then they need to enforce them. And water quality is determined by what happens on land. And planning and zoning are two of the most important tools that we have to protect our lakes. At the neighborhood scale, good site design and stormwater management can help reduce runoff to our lakes. And then finally, at the lot scale, homeowners can do a lot to keep our lakes healthy.
So what is the one best thing that a lakeshore homeowner can do to protect their lake water quality?
Reducing erosion and preventing runoff to the lake is the most important thing that homeowners can do. Keeping their shorelines natural or revegetating their shorelines both in the water and on the land will help prevent the pollutants from running off into the lake. Natural lakescaping is becoming much more popular as people begin to understand what the benefits and the beauty of natural shorelines are.
Carolyn Helber lives here on Fish Lake in Maple Grove. Carolyn, you've changed your lakeshore from a regular mowed lawn to native landscaping. Tell us why you've done this.
We had a lot of problems with geese, first of all, and so when we looked at doing it, one of the things that we wanted to do was to eradicate the geese as much as possible. One of the things that we found out from Lakeshore Restoration is that the geese won't come into an area where they think something might be there trying to get it. So we have eradicated the geese. They go to our neighbors on either side and visit. We also wanted to control the erosion on our lakeshore. We have a lot of wave action here on Fish Lake, and we wanted something that would control and keep the land that we've paid for.
Carolyn, how would someone who wants to put in this native vegetation get started?
It's really easy, and it's something that everybody likes to do. Quit mowing. Just don't mow the area that you think you might want to put into native vegetation. The area will come with its own seed beds. It's amazing what happened with ours. We had sedges and beautiful wildflowers that came up on their own. Someone at the DNR told me that some of those seed beds can last up to 100 years. So when you don't mow an area, you can really see what comes up there naturally.
Was this an easy decision for you and your husband?
No, actually not at all. My husband was really resistant, did not want to do it at all. He perceived that it would be looking like weeds in the lake. I guess it took a while for both of us to come to the conclusion at the same time. When we did, it didn't take long for us to be able to get the planting done. Our neighbors on both sides have been interesting. One neighbor, actually, when we first started, the neighbors weren't real big on the idea. I think everyone perceives it as being something that will be wild and not pretty. So our neighbors on this side have since, in the last 5 years, decided that they would like to do the same thing. Our neighbors on the other side have a sandy beach that they just put in a year ago, and it's already washed out. So we're starting to see that the benefits are great both to us and to the lake.
So what does your husband think about it now?
Well, interestingly, he now brings people down and shows off the beautiful flowers and the butterflies and the songbirds. So I think it takes everyone a different amount of time to accept something like this.
Kim, there are a number of things that we can do to minimize the amount of runoff and associated pollutants that come off of hard surfaces like parking lots and streets. One of the great tools that we have available to us is called a rain garden or a vegetated swale. And these can be used in parking lots like this, where we have a raised island that really doesn't do anything for us, and turning that into a depressed area that's vegetated and has soils that are specifically engineered to handle stormwater runoff coming into it. These serve a number of benefits for us. First of all, the roots of those plants can help the water soak back into the ground where it belongs, and they can also take up contaminants like heavy metals into the tissue of the plant, getting it out of the environment. And there are actually bacteria in the soil that can break down motor oil and other pollutants. Kim, we've got a great example of these vegetated swales at the H.B. Fuller Company parking lot in a suburb of St. Paul. They installed these swales and monitored the runoff coming from the parking lot. They found that they were able to reduce runoff and phosphorus by over 70% and sediment by 94%. So we're able to see substantial reductions in runoff pollution just by treating the raindrop as a resource instead of a waste product. Now, Kim, it's important to remember that we don't always need to use infiltration where water's soaking into the ground, because in some areas, soils just don't allow for that. But by exposing the stormwater and the pollutants to plants and soil, what we call biofiltration, we can have tremendous benefits in the way we clean up our lakes, rivers, streams, and wetlands.
So Julie, how can we encourage the use of these stormwater practices?
Well, Kim, we can tell people about how effective and important they are, but it really winds up being in the hands of the local officials who can mandate the use of these practices through their stormwater ordinances and other regulations.
Julie, are there other things that homeowners can do to help keep our lakes clean?
Sure, there's a couple of really important things. First of all, if you have a septic system, make sure it's properly maintained. Have it pumped out at least every 3 years, and more often if you use a lot of water. Another really important thing is to practice lake-friendly lawn care. Because of the way our neighborhoods are designed, many urban and suburban lakes are directly connected to the streets in their watersheds through the storm drain system. That means every street is a shoreline. So keep your leaves and grass clippings out of the street and out of the lake. And choose zero phosphorus fertilizer. It's the law in Minnesota. And finally, limit your use of pesticides and clean up after your pets.
Catherine McGlynn is a county commissioner in Itasca County, where tourism and lakes are important to the local economy. Catherine, what is the role of a county commissioner in protecting Minnesota's lakes?
We have to balance economic development and try to protect the environment at the same time, and that's a big challenge for local officials. But you know, we need to make tough decisions right now if we want to protect our most important economic assets, our water resources. Comprehensive plans, for instance, protective ordinances that are enforced can ensure long-term economic prosperity for everyone. And to be most effective, elected officials must work with citizens so that there's that partnership between private entities, public entities, individuals, and businesses. There's tough choices to be made, but these decisions are usually easier to make if we base our decisions on scientific data and long-term economics. And we're also more likely to gain and maintain citizen support from well-informed citizens if they understand that ordinances are meant to protect their investments.
Why is it so important that citizens get involved at the local level?
Well-informed citizens can be effective when they communicate their own experiences with lakeshore ecology to their appointed officials. And they can provide the support they need to us when we're up there trying to make the right decisions to protect our water resources and habitat. And then afterwards, they can hold us accountable to both enact and enforce ordinances that will ensure future economic prosperity and quality of life.
Thanks for joining us. Lakes are a public asset. They belong to everyone in Minnesota. Ultimately, the quality of our lakes is a reflection of how we take care of our land. The less we disturb the land around a lake, the better the water quality. The healthier the water quality, the better the habitat for fish and wildlife. This all adds up to better fishing, swimming, and enjoyment of our lakes for years to come. Remember, it's what we do on the land that determines the health of our lakes. Lakeshore owners must responsibly manage their own shoreland. The community must make good decisions that promote healthy lakes. And local officials must do their part by setting and enforcing good policies for shoreland protection. The future of Minnesota's lakes is in our hands. Will we hear the call of the loon? Will children catch sunfish off the dock? It really is up to all of us to preserve the great legacy of Minnesota lakes.
The shoreline tells all about the water, what there is to do, what there is for you. Without habitat, without vegetation, nothing can live. The lake will be through.
Minnesota's Lakes at Risk was a co-production of TPT's Minnesota Channel and the Minnesota Lakes Association. Additional support for this program provided by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and the Catherine B. Anderson Fund of the St. Paul Foundation.